Greetings, greetings. Welcome, everybody. Sabek, greetings. Welcome. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to get started shortly. How did we create this again? Yep, there we go. That is how we create that. That is our issue. No. Alright, forgot that. So let us test it. We're gonna get started shortly. Give me 1 second. Here we go. So it does work. Okay. Justin, Lawful, greetings, welcome. Hope everybody is doing good. TikTok police, Lawful, greetings. Where is it when I miss class? That is it. That is it. So, from what I can gather, it seems that some of us have been taking action. Some of us have followed the directions, and let me take off the music for now. Yeah, it would appear that we are well on our way to creating a new Jamaica. All of them TikTok something here pop up. What is this? Okay. Yeah, so I am glad that people are finally waking up and being more receptive to the things that actually matter. Entertainment, while we have destruction around us, is not good. So when we have a system around us that is crumbling and we are not able to do anything about it, all the efforts that we have made thus far doesn't appear to be working. It is time to do what? It is time to either build something new or destroy what is causing us distress and pain. Now, this live is going to be dedicated to two things. Two things. We're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence. Our Declaration of Independence. And we are also going to talk about what we thought we knew about Jamaica. So, this knowledge is necessary, people. It is necessary for us to move forward. We can't move forward in ignorance. Ignorance is what brought us here in the first place. If we forefathers and grandparents and great-grandparents and the people that come before we never ignorant to a certain degree, wouldn't they also know? Would have been elevated long time. Imagine we are... Well, Jamaica is not like a small island where nobody don't know about. Right? Jamaica coming like a celebrity place. In case people don't realize, Jamaica is, you know, sometimes you have some animal like dog or horse, sometimes even cat. You ever see them put something over them face up? You ever see the dog them, where them put the thing over them face to block them vision to only what is in front of them? That is literally what has been happening to us. We have blinders on. So we can't see what going left and right or even up and down. We so closed in upon what is going on that we are not distracted from the distraction. So when the distraction starts and we don't have anyone interfering with the distraction, that is where all of the fear, that is where all of the confusion, that is where all of the distress, that is where everything comes from. Because we are so laser focused on the distraction of what we can't control. And of course, there's a reason for that. Exactly, like horse race. There is a reason for that. You see, if our focus is captured, that is where our power goes. I'll give you an example. Let's say today, your plan say you're going to wake up tomorrow, 6 o'clock. What you do? You typically set one alarm, don't? So now, you have set your focus for a destination. Right? 6 o'clock tomorrow not come yet. But you are prepared for it now. So now, the same thing happens with everything in a society. You hear say them come out with a new law. The law not come out yet. You don't see anything having to do with the law. You don't have any participation in what goes into creating the law. But yet still, you know that it's coming. Right? And when the law comes, it is as if you have no say. You don't have no control. All you can do is just roll along with it. Just roll along with it. And that is what I am going to dive into today. First, we need to comprehend what is Jamaica. For those of you who are new here, you probably learned something you had no idea was the case. So, as always, I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney, I am not providing legal advice. Anything I say is my own opinions. If you learn something, good for you. I don't offer consultations and I cannot help you with your situation. So please, if you message me about something, I can only give you my opinions on what I would do. I cannot tell you how to handle your situation. Red Gemstone, lawful, greetings. So, the first thing I'm going to show you is something in our current reality. Something that you yourself can verify. All right? So, let me pull up a document so you can see for yourself. Let's go here. All right, so we're going to head over to the computer so we can talk about this thing here, right? So here we have the United States Security and Exchange Commission. This is the website where businesses go to register in order to trade what is called or what is referred to as securities. And if you notice, we see the name here, Jamaica Government of. Do you know anything named Jamaica Government of? Okay. We're not going to be a stickler upon that one day. Here we have company information, right? It says state location, right? Jamaica. State of incorporation, Jamaica. Does anyone know what incorporation means? Who knows what incorporation means? Drop it in the chat. What is meant by incorporation? What do you think it means? State of incorporation. Nobody? Nobody? All right. Let us ask Google. I'm going to ask Bing. Even though Microsoft is not my favorite search engine, but you see, it doesn't even have a good definition. Let us go to Google. Meaning of incorporation. The meaning of incorporation. And you know, now AI has its sources where it gets its definition from, right? And in this case, it is pulling from 3 different sources, which none of them are authoritative, except for the last one, which is the Cornell Legal Institute, right? It says, incorporation is the legal process of forming a corporate entity, creating a separate legal identity, and protecting personal assets. Okay? So now, when we go back to the Securities and Exchange Commission, where it says state of incorporation, it means what? Jamaica government of, or you can say the government in this case, is operating as a corporation. It is registered as a corporation. That is the only way you can offer securities to the United States Security and Exchange Commission. Right? That's the only way you can trade securities in the United States. You have to create a corporation. So, the government of Jamaica has converted itself into a corporation. Now, let's take a look at some of these filings. See, we have documents here. You can see the dates. I have some that just filed with you. July 21, 2026. Alright? Now you can go and find these documents yourself. You can type it into Google. You can type in SEC Jamaica. Or you can type in, let's see if they have a central index key, which is a SIC number. And this number identifies the corporation. So when you hear me saying Jamaica is a brand, I am not just pulling your leg. I am not just speaking as if something is true. I can always verify anything that I say. Alright? So now, if you click on one of these documents, right? Let us click on one of them. Here we have the corporation information. So here you have Form 18K, right? And it says Annual Report of the Registrant, the Government of Jamaica, right? And, you know, it has some various information there about what they are investing, etc., right? And again, this is a public document, so I'm not sharing anything that you can't find yourself. You see who signed for? All right. Let us take a look at a different document. That was the 18K for July. Let us go down here. So for an older one, see here one from 2025. Let's see what's under 2025. Similar document. All right. And we have the same individual signing it. Right? So while that one is interesting, let's take a look at the prospectus. Right? This is the prospectus, basically the offerings that are being made, right? And for things like bonds and different government offerings, here we have Jamaican dollars, 46,600,000,000. That is how much they are investing, right? So they say the government of Jamaica is offering 46,600,000,000 of its 9.6% notes due in 2030, payable in United States dollars. The notes will constitute direct, general, and unconditional and unsubordinated external indebtedness. So they are basically selling and exchanging debt instruments, right? So anyways, here they have other additional information, right? Stabilization, blah, 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 blah. Now, what is the point of all of this? The point of this is very simple. Jamaica is a brand name. It is a copywritten name. And it is an entity. Can the public buy? Of course you can. Government sell them all the time. Basically sell debt, they get the cash flow, and then you gain an interest on it because the government invests, right? But again, the point is that the government itself is a corporate entity. It is not a sovereign or a true governmental institution. It has created entities to represent itself in global financial markets, which it cannot do as a true sovereign government. So, it had to incorporate itself in order to play big ball with the United States and other countries, right? So, if the government of Jamaica is a corporation, right? What exactly happened in 1962? That is a question we need to also answer, right? So we're gonna go to this document here called the Independence Act of 1962. It is a very short document. It is only 10 pages. You see? 10 pages long. Now, page 1. Actually, page 1 is this, right? The table of contents and the introduction. Page 2, it has this here in small writing. It says, an act to make provision for and in connection with the attainment by Jamaica of fully responsible status within the Commonwealth. Right? Yes, the online SEC documentation is online, is public view. You can go and search on Google and you can find it as well. A matter of fact, let us go there so you can see for yourself. Let's go back to Google. Government of Jamaica, SEC filing. You see? Same links will come up. You just have to Google it. Okay? I cannot tell you where to go buy. That is financial advice. You have to go through a broker anyways. You cannot buy directly. So you would have to speak to some kind of financial broker or financial clearinghouse for more information on that. Oh, the Independence Act. Yes, you can Google it as well. The Jamaica Independence Act 1962. Right? And there you have it. You can click on the first one or you can scroll and find other editions. Right? But it's ultimately the same thing. I think this one here from the UK legislation is like a web version, so you don't have to open a PDF. Right? So there you have it. So anyways, this is the document, right? Now, you notice it say the attainment of Jamaica of fully responsible status within the Commonwealth. What is Jamaica? Jamaica, again, is a corporate brand. Jamaica is a trademark. Jamaica is a name created by the British. So, Jamaica, people are thinking it is the people who became independent. That is not true. If you read the very document itself, announcing the independence, it was only of the government being independent. And when they say independent, it didn't mean independent of everything. It means that now you have basically a child government under the British Commonwealth. Because what is the, you know what they say? within the Commonwealth. It never say you can go wherever you want, go and do what you want to do. You are going to stay in the fishbowl called the Commonwealth. And we talked about this before, but let us show it again. British Commonwealth. Right? And if you go to commonwealth.org, actually, here we go. Royal Family, Commonwealth. Right? And you can get all the information about the Commonwealth here. And the Commonwealth consists of all of the countries that were formerly colonies. So now instead of calling them colonies, they are now Commonwealth nations. Instead of the British directly ruling over them, now you have basically agents on behalf of the British ruling these countries. Right? So if you read through any of this, you will see the history, and you will see again that the origins of the Commonwealth come from Britain's former empire. So they tell you in your face, you just have to look. Okay? This is not something secret. All governments know this. It is only the people who don't know this. Right? It is only the people who don't know this. So, when you hear the Commonwealth, it still means within a British created system. It still means a colonial created system. Independent does not mean free. Those are two separate and distinct words. So when it says the Jamaica Independence Act is an act to make provision for, it is basically saying we are creating, you're making a provision, you're creating an opening, you're creating a new space, and in connection with the attainment of Jamaica. Again, it didn't say people of Jamaica. It never said Jamaica, the island nation. It never said nothing about any attributes of what this Jamaica is. So in its normal sense of the word, this is something created by the British and still owned by the British Crown. A fully responsible status within the Commonwealth. So there was no so-called freeing of anyone as it relates to the Independence Act. Okay? So if this is the case, that means that to this day, we are still under British rule. Still under British rule. Nothing in this document talks about the people of Jamaica. Right? The only thing it talks about is your subjected status as a British citizen or some other thing connected to the British Crown. Never said anyone was free. Okay? So this document was not meant for people. It was strictly meant for the property of the British Crown. And that brings us to why. Why exactly we need to have a Declaration of Independence as a people. So here we go to voiceofjamaica.com. And you click on the first post. And here we have the constitutional draft. Right? And here we have, firstly, we're calling this a constitutional union. Because it requires we the people to come together and agree to something like this. Okay? So we're not just saying Constitution of Jamaica. And we are changing the name because we are not going to infringe on a copyright and build on something that we despise, for something that has been oppressing us. We have to come up with our own. We have to create something of our own making. Right? So this is why we change how Jamaica is spelled. So here we have the Declaration of Independence of the people. That is correct. We would change the name. You notice it says independence of the people. So while we don't have slavery anymore, we have not claimed the right of independence as a people. Me know some people are wonder all kind of things. Right? I wonder all kind of things, you know, why we need to do this and why this and that. Look at any modern country. Jamaica has never had an independence. We are celebrating independence of the corporation all this time. Jevi said Britain could simply relinquish the name Jamaica. That is true, but they are not. Over the past 64 years, have they done it? No. So why would they do it now? Especially when it is so profitable. So this again is something that we the people would have to agree to in order to move forward. Right? And the last time I read this, so that you can hear why we are claiming independence and what it entails. Right? Because whenever you are claiming independence from a system, you need to show the importance of why you are taking action. Right? So that you can be respected by other nations. When anyone sees the reasons why you declare yourself separate and apart from a political body, you need to show exactly what caused you to do that, right? How are they profiting from the name Jamaica today? Well, first and foremost, they are collecting taxes from the people. They are investing those tax dollars, and the people see none of it. And when we say taxes, we mean all fees that are collected by the government. The people do not see a dollar from that. And that comes from all sectors. Any kind of trade or commerce, any kind of, even to just live. Even to just live, the government tax the crap out of you. Right? And in any way that you are getting ahead in life, you get tickets, you get license fees, you get all kind of things. So it is there, very clear to see. So these are the reasons why we would declare independence. The present system of governance has failed in its essential duties. It has denied effective participation of the people in decision making on all levels. And rightfully so. Because, again, the people have never come out to create a government. The people have never come out to set rules for government. The people have never come out to claim their independence. The people don't even know what is ruling them. So, even though this is a grievance, this is also an ignorance all these years. We have to own up to our ignorance. But at the same time, if we have caretakers calling themselves government and they deny us decision-making participation, then how can we say we are a free people? We can't be free if we can't make decisions along with our fellow men and women. That's not freedom. Or that's not being free. 2, it has failed to consult the people about their priority in national matters. We have so many different projects going on, and the people are not consulted with, nor any approval sought from the people. Then just come out and announce, oh, we have this big project going on. Oh, we are building this, we are building that. And that's it. We have no say in any kind of priority on what the people think needs to be a priority in the nation. 3, it has created immunity within the very Constitution, which was created to limit governmental power and protect the rights of the people. So for those of you who have no idea what that means, let us show some evidence of that, right? Let us pull that up. Jamaica. See if we can find the Order in Council 1962. Here we go. So this is what many people think is the Constitution, right? Let us go to section 48. Many of you already know this, but just for clarity, we're going to show section 48. If we can just get to it. 40, 41, 43, reach 49, 48. Section 48, 3. Right? It says, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, Parliament may make laws for the peace, order, and good government of Jamaica. 43, section 48.3. Right? No civil or criminal proceedings may be instituted against any member of either house for words spoken before or written in a report to the house of which he is a member, or to the committee thereof, or to any joint committee of both houses, or by reason of any matter or thing brought by him therein, by petition, bill, resolution, motion, or otherwise. In other words, all of this means they cannot be prosecuted for any so-called law that they pass. They are immune from prosecution. So when you have the very document that is supposed to be limiting governmental power, actually shielding them from any prosecution, this is no longer a real constitution. That means you don't have equality of the law. What if they commit illegalities? No, we cannot prosecute them under this system. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? And it further goes to show that we were under a master-slave system, where there is a certain class of individuals in public office who cannot be prosecuted for anything done in government. All right. 4, it has continued colonial rule in the courts and remained in the Commonwealth created by the British Crown, the former colonizers, while proclaiming independence from the British Crown. Let us go back to this Constitution here, right? And let us go all the way down all the way down. Here, if you scroll up just a little bit, we will start seeing the oaths. We will start seeing the oaths. The oath that several individuals must take, right? Those in public office, right? Again, as we just went over, these people are taking an oath to Jamaica, to a corporation. They are not taking an oath to the people. And the words are very crafty. Let me read to you the first one. This is the oath of allegiance. I, whatever your name is, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Jamaica. That I will uphold and defend the Constitution and the laws of Jamaica, and that I will conscientiously and impartially discharge my responsibilities to the people of Jamaica. You notice the wording? You notice how they interact with the people? They are discharging responsibility to the people. They are not accountable to the people. So you see, when time you hear people say, them work for we, them a public servant, them a this, them a that and whatever. It's not really true. They are still making an oath and allegiance to the corporation. It is in plain language. This is not something you have to go look up and try to squint your eyes and try to figure out. It says it right there. I do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Jamaica. And we know Jamaica doesn't mean the people. Okay? This is the oath for the due execution of office of Prime Minister or other minister or parliamentary secretary. Hear what that oath says. I, being duly appointed Prime Minister, Minister, or Parliamentary Secretary, do swear that I will, to the best of my judgment at all times, when so required, freely give my counsel and advice to the Governor General, or any other person for the time being, lawfully performing the functions of that office, for the good management of the public affairs of Jamaica. And I do further swear that I will not, on any account, at any time whatsoever, disclose the counsel, advice, opinion, or vote of any particular minister or parliamentary secretary, and that I will not, except with the authority of the cabinet, and to such extent as may be required for the good management of the affairs of Jamaica, directly or indirectly, reveal the business or proceedings of the cabinet or the nature or contents of any documents communicated to me as minister, parliamentary secretary, or any matter coming to my knowledge in my capacity as such, and that in all things I will be a true and faithful prime minister or parliamentary secretary. So help me God. Now, is there any allegiance to the people in that? None. And as a matter of fact, remember we always talk about, we have never seen any document to show that they are actually doing what they say they are doing. Right? Because their oath specifically says they shall not reveal the business or proceedings of the cabinet or the contents of any document communicated to him as Prime Minister or anyone else. So the Constitution itself has an oath in there to conceal the business of the country from us, or the business of the corporation from us. So it is not speculation that it is none of our business. Because Jamaica is not people. Jamaica is not a nation. Jamaica is a corporation. That is why it is registered with the SEC. So all the members of parliament, they have an oath not to disclose anything. That is why we don't know nothing about the consolidated fund. Exactly. Now this is what the judges have to take. This is the last one at the end. It says, judicial oath. I, your name here, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Jamaica. Wow, where did we see that before? Again, allegiance to Jamaica, not the people. Don't get it twisted. That I will uphold and defend the Constitution of Jamaica, and that I will administer justice to all persons alike in accordance with the laws and usages of Jamaica. The laws and usages of Jamaica, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. So help me God. So, again, none of these oaths are to the people. None of them. They are all to the corporation of Jamaica. And if we have people taking an oath to something other than the people who they should be serving, then that means they are not serving the people. And they are doing so as a matter of law. Because if it was not in here, then they could have gotten prosecuted. But as a matter of law, from the constitution that they are operating from, they have no allegiance to the people. Right? Right, and the British Crown as well. So this is just for people in government. Right? The ministers, the secretaries, and the judicial branch. And as you all should already know, if we look at the Constabulary Force Act, we see the same corporate behavior under Section 4, right? Or paragraph 4. Let me zoom in. This one you probably can see better, right? Here we have the police. The police have an oath to our sovereign lady, the Queen. Let us read that. Paragraph 4 or Section 4 of the Constabulary Force Act says, no person to be appointed under this act to be an officer or a sub-officer or constable shall be capable of holding the said office until he shall take and subscribe the oath here following, that is to say, I, A.B., meaning your first and your last name, do swear that I will well and truly serve our sovereign lady, the Queen. Does this sound like the people of Jamaica to you? In the office of, so any of these offices, officer, sub-officer, or constable, without favor or affection, malice or ill will, and that I will see and cause Her Majesty's peace to be kept and preserved, and that I will prevent to the utmost of my power all offenses against the same. So you see, when you hear say you commit an offense, it means an offense, something offensive to the Queen. That is truly what it actually means. When the police says you committed an offense, you are offending the Queen by doing it. And that while I shall continue to hold the said office, I will, to the best of my skill and knowledge, discharge all the duties thereof faithfully according to God, according to law, so help me God. So, here we have a swearing to the Queen. You know why this is swearing to the Queen? Because the Constabulary Force Act was pre-constitutional. So this was a requirement. They always had to swear to the Queen. But after the Constitution was instituted, now they are swearing to the corporation, which is Jamaica. Now, here is something interesting. Here is something rather interesting. You remember the case Heemans versus Attorney General? Remember this case? Heemans versus Attorney General. Let us take a look at something in parallel. Let's go to paragraph 57. You see how long this ruling is? Paragraph 57. When I say for yourself, right? Remember, you know, this is the constabulary oath. Right? It says, I, A.B., do swear that I will well and truly serve our sovereign lady the Queen without favor, blah, 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 and that I will see and cause her majesty's peace to be kept. Right? Just so you can see how far this is being recognized. Here is Heemans versus Attorney General. What did Justice Batts had to say? It is still the law of this nation that persons under the Queen's peace are entitled to freedom from search of their person or property. Persons under what? The Queen's peace. The reason why Justice Batts mentioned this, amongst other things in the Constabulary Force Act, is because it is in their very oath. The duty of the police is to keep the peace of the Queen, cause her majesty's peace to be kept. So the judges recognize the verbiage of the oath. They were just giving you hints. They are not always going to tell you exactly what is going on, but they are hinting. It is still the law of this nation that persons under the Queen's peace are entitled to freedom from search of their person or property unless such a search is legally justified. Meaning the action that is being taken is justified by law. I hold that it is not a lawful reason to stop and search a car based on the fact that cars with similar features are often stolen and used in the commission of crime. Right? All right, Rowan, we're going to bring you up. I look like Rowan already. All right. HQ Fitness, you're up next. See you tap in the box. HQ Fitness.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah, man. Greetings.
All right. My greetings, friend.
Yeah.
My one question is this. At the time it was the Queen, now it's the King. Do they still benefit from any transaction that is made by the government? Do they benefit in cash or kind?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is why they can't show us the books.
Okay.
If we could see where all the money goes and comes from, I don't think tomorrow anybody would get up go to work.
All right. And I just most of the things I'm asking, I'm doing some reading and I'm You confirm a lot of things to me. The other one was the printing of the new money. Has
Mm-hmm.
anybody seen any documentation as to how much money was printed, what was the cost of printing the money, and how was the money, sent and put onto the local market, and how the money that was off the local market, what was the procedure and all of that.
No.
Because to me, so, and and it's amazing though, and this is why I laugh, and I always look at my daughters over to university, and I said, you have to live in a system, so you have to try and get in the system so you can survive. That is one. But the system was never meant to keep you, and make you a better person. And I keep asking the question: do you think the universities, especially in the Caribbean, are educating our people the right way? The reason why I'm asking that, what would it benefit the UK to train Jamaicans to understand, especially like the constitution that you're reading to us now? What would it be in their best interest? That is the first question.
No.
I will ask the second one later. And if I really want to consider myself to be the average man, but with a independent man, an open-minded thinking person. How would it benefit the Queen, the kingdom, to educate Jamaicans the way they are to? What would be the substantial benefit?
Well, when you said the way they want to, what does that entail? Or what does that mean in your terms?
All right. If all right, it's as simple as this. Would you train somebody to come to remove you or overthrow you? Put it like this: if you are in a position to take over from you, and then to look at what you've been doing to gain all the wealth you have gained for hundreds of years during slavery, would you then say to persons, "This is how I do it, so now it's your turn now to come and do it all over again"? Would you do that? That is the main question.
Well, absolutely
So
not.
for me, it's like, a set of folks say, okay, this is the formula that they use. So now let's use the same formula now on our own Jamaican, our own black people. And one of the most hurtful thing to me over the years has to do with land. I was born into land. And on my
Mm-hmm.
fault, them take me 4 parents from Africa and bring me come down here. It's not my fault. But I was born here. And one of the most hurtful things is to hear a lot of people, I think I'm going to leave politicians outside. I'm going to leave even local people, the people that consider themselves to be the elite persons of this country, to be saying, telling people that they are squatters. No, in common man language, me want to know the queen who should it buy Jamaica from.
Well, they
Me
claim it
want to
was.
know who she inherited from and who bought it, who bought the island of Jamaica.
It was never a buying of the island. It was a buying of the name.
Good. So when we talk to our people, we must say to them, say, look here, is guns, bullets, and bombs, and thousands of lives for the British Empire to own or have set over Jamaica. And anytime I'm talking foolishness, you can shut me. And they brought our 4 parents here, them slave with them. When you can go back even with the church, and there's a long history that they never teach me all this stuff in high school. Them give one little Caribbean book with Christopher Columbus and when discovered Jamaica and a bunch of little nonsense. But if you're not smart enough to step out and go do research, you'll never know, you'll never understand. And what is hurting, what set of people that grew up in a system, which is, as we said, them use the whole Bible and Christianity and that for control people and control what you think and make you be afraid to express yourself. And you're going to go hell and all of that kind of stuff they come with to keep you in to control. And the thing is that once you step out and you start researching and finding out what is going on, then you're the after being labeled as a why he's a radical and you're antichrist and you're this and you're that. But you know what's funny though? When I look at my parents and look at my grandparents, I realize I can't really blame them because they never have really much of a choice. You know?
Right.
It's what was presented to them, what was thrown to them, and say, you know what? Is either you abide by this or you don't abide by it. And I was listening to Dr. Samaj. I think it was last night talking about violence, domestic violence, and corporal punishment, and all of that. And he's saying to us in Jamaica, well, you know, we have to stop beating kids. You know, we have to stop with this. But look at it. You going home with your child on the street. When I set upon the police, but never use I get up, say a man come by and go arrest him, come here, go to jail. The man I get stubborn. You pepper spray, you're beating, you have people picnic and young adults and stand up and watch all of this. No problem with somebody. Them going,
The connection kind of bad.
them also okay. Then the police have it, so me can't do it to you too. And then the worst part of it, when you look on the TV, you see shootings and killing, and oh, it's a movie, really. And when you the entire world, look for see Russia and I keep we are good with the US and how do you know then justify? How you going? How you going to manage? Look at a young man or a young woman who tell them, say, boy, after him see such a display. You understand me? Sometimes you look in Parliament and you see the man them and the woman and them, everybody are cuss and trace them one. You think you can go turn on and tell your child, no, say, boy, you have a dispute and you must sit down and talk civil about it. No, the more tell us civilized not getting away. You don't block the road and call down police and no fix. And this may sound like, you know, for the last 40, 50 years. This has been Jamaica. You know, and as it is today, boy, I tell you, I sorry for my grandkids them, and I lie. I don't know after I gone how them are going to survive in this place. I don't know. I don't know them going to survive. But as I said, my friend, I just think the whole education system that we have, we just need to honestly sit down and start coming up front with the youths, them especially, and let them know the truth. Tell them the truth. And then ask them in a subtle way, and how can we then make Jamaica the place where love and want to work and stay? Right? That's it. And that is the question that everybody's afraid of. So, you know, why? Yeah, man, go ahead, man.
Yeah, and that is why I am going through this short resolution type of history on what we actually have before I talk about the solution of actually declaring our independence so that we can move forward. Because without us declaring, then no country or no authority is going to take us serious.
Yeah.
Right. So as a people,
I just want to say this though, you know. Yeah, man. And I just want to say this for all the people who listen to your cast, you know. But what I'm at a stage in my life where it don't matter to me PLP or GLP. We just want some people to start do the right thing. Be honest, do the right thing. We can make significant changes that will benefit the people then. Because remember, you know, we're not going to be here forever.
right.
You understand me? We're not going to be here forever. So make sure. All right. One of the things I said to myself, and at one point I was thinking about getting in politics, and then I leave it alone because I said, no, sir. If me go in politics, I forgot to like when me and the of Africa there, the captain there. Don't worry, I forgot get about 10 bodyguard around me. And you can't know where I eat, sleep, or drink. Because for you bring back Jamaica to any kind of honesty and truthfulness, that is what going to take any leader right now.
No.
You understand me?
No.
That is what going to take any leader right now. Because this is it. You have a set of people that sits and look at you and say, we'll put aside $1 billion to fix the road. You know it's a lie. Boy, this tribute to this organization, this ministry, and you know it's a lie. Right? But you can't always say it because there's nobody to come out and say after that, well, then we go looking at the ministry, looking at the books, And yes, this is how it go and that and how it go. You understand me? I mean, and this is where we need to start. At the end of the day, I've been saying this for the last 20 years. I said, look at Jamaica. We're having a serious road infrastructure problem with drainage and all of this. And I said, for the last 14 years, if every year we concentrate on fixing one parish, in 14 years, we don't have to talk about roads and sewer and water and all of this for the next 50 years because we are doing substantial overall. Me's not a special Jamaican. Me's just an ordinary Jamaican. And if me can sit down with my little pea brain with me, I want to say about all this pitching and patching and catching and spread the thing and it no work. It come back come shooting at the leg.
Right.
You understand me? And I as them bring up this whole stuff here with now, right? It's the same thing I'm saying. Me could us fix out, really analyze the situations them all in the parish them. I say, look here, year by year we go work. If we can fix two at a time, even better. Because I know everywhere in Jamaica seriously developed to a point where it really need you in there for your whole year. But if we contractors them together, everybody together as a unit, just like when you're traveling, you're going to America, and you probably go, all right, for instance, you're going in a half a tree square, and you see the park. In America, you see some man come out there, 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the night or 10 o'clock, and by 2 o'clock in the morning, it flatten, And by the next day, you see a new park put up, you wonder how the man put it in 2 days, Why we can't work like that? Why we can't gang the communities them, gang the roadway, line up the things instead of one little, do miles and miles and miles of project and just get the thing out of the way. Why I don't know. I said before, I don't dare to beat the Prime Minister. And I beat nobody. I'm just saying that there are a lot of Jamaicans here that can have great and good suggestions they can put on the table. Come on, man. Make we do better. Make really plan for the future of the youth them. Plan for the future of the youth them in the right way. Just because it's sad.
It seems like you are new to the channel. You're still there?
Yeah, man, I'm still here.
Yeah, man. So you see, literally all of the things you just mentioned, we covered that on this channel before.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So this is, when we talk about those things, that is not something we can suggest to the government because they are not going to take our word for it. They are not going to take our suggestions or our ideas. So those kind of things are what drive us to the point of saying that the people needs to be the government again. The people needs to create their own government. Because the government that we have is dictatorship.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So that is where we are headed to explain why we are creating a new constitution. Because we see solutions that we can fix as a people. We don't need one big head up and one mountain until we say X, Y, or Z and that's where to go.
Okay.
Right?
But I think at one point, everybody was in agreement that we need to change the constitution, and there was all this work that was going on with it, and it.
We are creating.
What them say them was going to create a new one. Oh, but
yeah,
not wrong with that.
We are creating something outside of the British system, not.
Yeah, totally agree.
Right.
Totally agree.
So we're gonna
I
share
as I
some more
say,
information on that, but just stay tuned. Stay tuned.
yeah, man. All right.
Cool. All right. So we have Johnson want to come up. We're gonna continue short. We're gonna take a few more questions. Johnson, you're up.
Questions? Yes, my brother.
Greetings, greetings. Wagwan.
Yeah, man, I'm there. I've been listening for a few minutes to your presentation, and I must big you up. Very informative and directly to the point presentation.
Yeah.
I just have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
So, as it relates to, as you said, we the people, you said should form our own government.
Absolutely.
Am I correct?
Absolutely.
All right. So, hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. Yeah. So
Yeah.
my question is, as it relates to how to wisely navigate what may exist in the current laws and the books that would seek to prevent or to suppress any organization that may be that it may see as a threat exist any.
Your connection break out. Say that again. What do you think as a what?
No, I was asking, since you're talking about forming more of a citizen government, a system where the citizens don't have to depend on quote unquote government. I was wondering if there exists any legislation, anything in law that may seek to suppress or prevent any kind of action like that.
No.
Oh, okay. I was thinking about that. How do you apply? If you don't mind sharing your thoughts as it relates to applying such as a governance system in a practical way. Like, give me an example. Like, how could it be implemented, really?
Well, that is not something I can.
Or is that yeah, you can't disclose that. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Right. Not at this stage. Right now.
Yeah, I get you.
The first thing we need to do is education first and awareness.
Education. Yes, I agree.
Right.
I agree.
But you know, to put things in a better perspective, we as a people are not going to combat the government, and we are not trying to overthrow the government. That is absolutely not what we are attempting to do here.
And I think that's a very wise thing to say, because I remember for myself during COVID, I posted quite a few videos trying to inform the public of the medication that was being delivered to the public,
right?
According to the own websites of the manufacturers and so on and so forth. And I tell you something, I made a video and it went viral, and it was claimed to be Dr. Alfred Dawes talking, and it was a whole mix up and big thing. And the Prime Minister went into the Parliament and referred to me and my activities as sedition. Obviously trying to set up the legal basis for my arrest of some sort. So that's why it came to mind, because if I just by trying to inform people of what is written on websites of various manufacturers of medication should suffer the Prime Minister trying to set me up for sedition, if that's all I was doing, right? Wasn't telling anything about him, wasn't trying to fight him in any way, shape or form, just telling the people what a overseas company who manufactured certain medications said on their websites, then it stands to reason that we have to be very wise as it relates to what we not just what we say, but how we say what we say.
Right.
In terms of these things, you know.
Right. Yeah, and I totally agree because it is not hard to pin the narrative on what someone is saying.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And I tell people all the time, um, if you try to say you're gonna combat the government and you think you're going to use force in any way, shape, or form, I always tend to remind people: listen, the government has a monopoly on force,
Right.
right? Government have a monopoly on force, and unless you have a force that can then outdo the government's force, you have to make sure that you reject any sort of force as it relates to the government. Any sort, reject it. Go the route of what you're doing, educating and informing. That is the
Right.
smart route.
Right.
Yeah, man, that's a smart route. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And it is, again, something that and I always start out my lives this way. I'm not providing legal advice or anything like that.
Right. I hear you always say it. Yes, yes.
But at the same time, I am also expressing my freedom of expression in a way
Exactly.
in a way that is not harming or degrading anyone else. I am simply stating the facts
Yes.
that I can verify.
Right, 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 right,
Right. And
right.
all of these lives, by the way, are posted on YouTube. So if there's any question about a record or what I said, it can easily be referenced.
Oh, right, right. I like that. I like that. I like that.
So if
You
so,
mentioned something though. Yeah,
Mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, even if someone wants to take something and edit it and say I said this or I said that, the entire record can always be pulled.
Yes, I get you. I get you. Yeah, man. There's something else I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You mentioned some case as it relates to the Governor General, was it?
He-Mans versus Attorney General.
Attorney General, sorry, yeah. What was the situation, if you don't mind, just briefly going over it for those of us like me who weren't that familiar with what happened? Yeah, you don't have to go into depth, really. I just want to, be educated on the matter.
Yeah, man. So this was a case of a random search and harassment, and also I guess you can call it assault and battery by some security forces and an individual. And the matter went to court, and that is how this ruling came about, where the judge was explaining what reasonable and probable cause is, what an illegal stop is, what is the reason for a search and things like that. So,
Okay.
and at the end, this individual, walk away with, what was it? $2.8 million.
Oh,
Right.
kind of cheap though, but yeah, better than nothing.
Well, this was back in 2013.
Okay, okay.
So, the inflation rate and all of that, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I get you, yeah.
right. And again, it depends on how the case is argued as well. So,
Right, right, yes, yes. Yeah, I get you, I get you. All right, my brother. I'll continue listening, and if anybody else wants to chime in, I would highly suggest anybody in this comment section and listening to us, that if you have a question, so jump on and ask the brother. So
yeah,
anyway,
man,
respect, my brother.
100%. Yeah, man, big up yourself.
Yeah, man, respect.
Yeah. All right. So we got Raquel. You're up. And then we're gonna bring up. Okay, so Raquel gone. Let's see if Nika is still here. All right, so Nika look like she's gone as well. Well, if you don't have patience, No problem. We will continue on the journey. So far we talk about, and we have shown that Jamaica is a corporation, right? We see the SEC filings in the United States. We see the Declaration of Independence, the Independence Act, which shows that it is an independence of Jamaica from the crown into the crown's basket, which is called the Commonwealth, right? We know that Jamaica does not mean the people, right? So it must mean something else, and that meaning is in its corporate capacity to do business, right? And that being said, when we even look at the oaths are being taken to Jamaica. Every official, the judges, the ministers, and anyone who have to take a general oath, like a secretary or anybody like that, they are taking an oath to the Constitution and Jamaica. They are not taking any of these oaths to serve the people. So when you say public servant, that is not true. That is not true. They are officials in a corporation, right? And again, this is just the plain language of what is there, right? And again, when we look at the constabulary oath, we see that this oath is to serve the queen and the crown. So whenever you see the queen represents the crown. So if the queen is not there, that means that whoever is subordinate to the queen, like the king or anyone under the British crown, is still considered the queen. So that oath is always going to be valid forever unless all of them expire, right? So they take an oath to the British crown because before the Constitution Order in Council 1962, that is who was in force and effect. So after that, you know, they said Jamaica, but again, it is a corporation owned by the British. So even the courts, that's what we were mentioning here with Hemans versus Attorney General. The courts also recognize that it is the Queen's peace that is being kept. It is not the people of Jamaica. You see, under paragraph 57 of Hemans versus Attorney General, let me read it for you again. It says, it is still the law of this nation that persons under the Queen's peace are entitled to freedom from search of their person or property. So again, British Crown, right? Can you talk a little about the slavery tax since 1838? No, we're not going to get into that. And the reason being, it is far from this topic. The slavery tax of 1838, it was never abolished, but at the same time, it is not something that can be verified as far as documentation is concerned about how it is being administered. So I can't go into that one at this moment, right? So it is clear that the people of Jamaica have no say, or the people who call themselves Jamaican. What you are is you are, how can I say? You are licensees of the corporation. You are given a license to operate under the protection of the corporation from other, I guess you can say, corporations. Because, again, even if you look at the United States Constitution and the United States Declaration of Independence, you have a similar structure. The United States of America is a corporation, right? And then, under that corporation, it basically culminates all of the states. The license is your birth certificate and your passport. That is your license under the corporation, right? It shows that you have the authority to claim protection or claim benefits and privileges under the corporation. That's what those things actually represent. Because think about it. What does a birth certificate do for you? What exactly do you use a birth certificate for, except to show the government that you are a Jamaican? Have you used your birth certificate to do anything? other than verifying with the government something to get some other ID? If anyone has an answer, I would be happy to hear the alternative. Right? And you might have heard other people say, oh, it's a stock certificate and it is identifying property and this and that. I'm not going to go into all of that. Okay? The important thing is this. We don't need a birth certificate to survive, and we certainly don't use it in everyday life. Secondly, our passport is being used as an identification device, and it is also something that can be used to travel. Now, most people don't use it for domestic travel. They use it for international travel, right? And again, we're not going to get into those details, but you can use a passport for domestic travel. So, given the fact that all of our agents that are, can't even say our agents, all of the agents that are working on behalf of the Crown, they are working for the corporation or the Crown, one or the other. And the two buckets go in the same funnel to go to the Crown. So this is why we as a people need to declare ourselves free and clear of the Crown. Because if we don't do that, then we are still calling ourselves subjects of the Crown. And when you're a subject of the Crown, you fall under the laws of the Crown, or you fall under the laws of the corporation. So, this is why we have a unanimous declaration of independence. And when we, the people, come together and we declare ourselves free, we are the ones who now dictate how we want to proceed in society. We don't have to be subjects of something or citizens of something else, begging and pleading to get rights and privileges recognized, respected, and upheld. Capiche? All right. So, as we talked about, we stopped at number 4. It starts out, the present system of governance has failed in its essential duties to number 4. It has continued colonial rule in the courts and remained in the Commonwealth created by the British Crown, the former colonizers, while proclaiming independence from the British Crown. And that's what we just demonstrated just now, right? We are still under that corporation that is under the Crown. Is it true that you are considered dead to the corporation if not declared your status? That is not true. You are a subject if you don't. And again, I don't want to go too far off topic here with some of these questions, but the short answer is no. Everything that we talk about legality of something, anything legal is a fiction. It is a legal fiction. It has to be on paper. So once it is on paper, it is a dead entity. It is something that is, you have to come to class for those conversations. All right? Number 5. While political independence was publicly declared for Jamaica, and when we say political independence, again, when we look at the Jamaica Independence Act of 1962, this is what is called political independence. Because what does it say? An act to make provision for and in connection with the attainment of Jamaica of fully responsible status within the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is a political body, and that political body allows other political bodies to become a part of it, like membership, what you call private membership associations, PMAs. Right? So Jamaica, as a member of the Commonwealth, is a political member. It is by political association why it is a part of the Commonwealth. And that association common is the British Crown. Right? Former colony, new, I guess you can say box. Right? And so that political independence, even though it has been declared, the people occupying the land were never declared free and independent of all colonial rule. Right? And this is a fact. It has imposed obligations for the use of rights by requiring consent through mandatory forms and contracts without meaningful consent. All government services are supposed to be free. But yet still, every time we conduct business with what should be a people's government, we have to pay for it. Right? You apply for your driver's license, you don't have to pay for. You apply for your passport, you don't have to pay for. You apply for this, you lose your birth certificate, you don't have to pay for the next one. What can we expect for free? If we were truly free, a free and sovereign nation, why are we paying for our birthright? To use our rights? Is it? Police abuse alone free? Why, rough. Rough. Right? So, without meaningful consent, we are being charged fees to exercise our rights. If we want to, if we want to exercise any right within society, it is going to cost us something. So that in and of itself should tell you, should give you an indication that we are not in a free society. We are under some form of external rule, some form of external contract that we may not be aware of. Because if we actually had a government that we said, okay, we the people are putting this government in power, then how can the creation that we created charge us a fee and yet still we're paying their salaries? That makes sense? You create something and now you keep on funneling money into it. It's almost like a dying animal. You keep on blowing breath into the animal unlimited. It don't make any sense. We're not even free to talk and express ourselves. That is true. That's true. Everything costs us, so we are not free. We have to pay to live. 7, it has failed to provide equal protection under law by allowing immunity to unlawful official acts under the claim of the public good. Now, people, did you know that the Road Traffic Act is coming from colonial times? How many people knew that? Drop a 1 in the chat if you knew. If you didn't know, drop a 2 in the chat. Did you know that the Road Traffic Act that we know of, it is coming from colonial times? Let us bring up one of them. One of the more recent ones. So we can take a look and speak lawfully, right? So this one, so this page 1997. Look at this. Wow. Let us zoom it in so we can see. What does it say? What does this say? Road traffic. The Road Traffic Act 1st of April 1938. How many of you have ever seen this? And this is this is not the oldest one, by the way. This is not the only one. Now, imagine April Fools. Right. That is why some fines were $100 and them something there. April Fools in 1938, right? Well, I guess then take everybody for fool. So, if you go through this document, it is a little bit more limiting than other documents, but here you know, right? This is a term that is not in the current Road Traffic Act. The word driver. Okay? The word driver means where a separate person acts as steersman of a motor vehicle, includes that person as well as any other person engaged in the driving of a vehicle, and the expression drive shall be construed accordingly. Right? Now, the interesting thing is this. Some of these terms were removed, right? Because it was in conflict with some of the court rulings that were made up to that time and after. The term driver has a legal definition, and they have recreated a lot of these terms that you see. Them are redefined the words to say what it means in this document, right? But we're not going to get too far into that. I just wanted to show you that this so-called Road Traffic Act comes from pre-constitutional times, right? So, the current one that we have, the Road Traffic Act of 2018, right? It is simply an amendment to the old one. They have taken most of the provisions of the old Road Traffic Act and put it into this one here. But here is the big problem. You have no pen and no paper? How much time I tell you now? If you don't want to learn something, you have to get ready for write. Or if you have a screen record, you know, so the lives them always long down. But anyways, the big problem is this. Whenever they are passing acts of parliament, such as this Road Traffic Act of 2018, it must go through something called constitutional evaluation. Let me say that again. We're going to validate what we say now. We are going to validate what we say. Whenever an act of parliament is being created, it's supposed to, before it becomes an act of parliament, goes through something called constitutional evaluation to make sure that it does not violate the Constitution. Let us validate what we just said, right? Because we have to speak lawful. When we look at section 48, again, just go back to section 48 if we can find it. 24, 45, 47, and 48. Ready? Let me show you why the Road Traffic Act is null and void in its entirety. If you already drop one in the chat. Because today is education, you know. In order for us to declare independence, we have to be educated about what it is that is causing us grievance. Okay? All right. This in front of us is section 48 of the Constitution. What does it say? Subject to the provisions of this Constitution. We just talk about subject, right? If you're a citizen, you're a subject of something, right? So when it says subject of, it means you owe allegiance to, you owe respect, you are under the rule of, right? Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, Parliament may make laws, right? If they choose to, it has to be in alignment with this Constitution. They can't just write up something and give Governor General and put it in a gazette. That is not how you make laws. It says subject to the provisions of this Constitution. So what? That means it have to conform to everything within the Constitution. Everything. So it's a Parliament may make laws. And we talked about this before. If they're going to make laws, it has to be in relation to peace. Does the Road Traffic Act do anything for peace? Remember, we had other acts of Parliament already in force and effect, such as the Constabulary Force Act. So does the Road Traffic Act do anything for peace? Does the Road Traffic Act do anything for order? And does it do anything for good government? Not only that, guess what? Did you know? Where is it? Let's go back up here, so. The Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms is a part of the Constitution. It is called the 2011 Amendment to the Constitution. So you see, when time you hear the courts and the police saying something like, oh, you have to comply and complain later. You have to comply with the lawful orders and then you bring the matter to court if it is that you want to vindicate your rights. How many of you heard that before? How many of you heard the phrase comply now and complain later? Comply now and then later you can bring the matter to court. Did you know that is a violation of the Constitution? Did you know that is a violation of the constable's oath? Did you know they are enforcing an invalid law? Now that is a bold claim. It is a bold claim to say the Road Traffic Act is invalid. Why do I say this? Let us scroll down a little bit to section 14. Let us zoom in as much as we can. What does this say? Protection of freedom of the person. Does it say damages after violation of freedom of the person? Does it say freedom after you have been violated of your person? What does protection of means? Doesn't protection mean say you are preventing something from happening in the first place? What is the point of protection if the protection can't work and then you have to play catch up later? So, if we have a protection of the person, exactly. Exactly. It is just like if you are going to couple with somebody else. You put on a condom to prevent accidents or mistakes, right? You don't put it on in the mid-light or after you're done. It don't make any legal nor moral nor logical sense. So when the Charter of Rights says protection of, it was and still is of the meaning that nobody not supposed to violate you in the first place. Eagle King, lawful, greetings. I see the agents are back. The agents are reporting the live. So people, please top up the live. I just had one violation strike. You know them hours I report me for everything. Whenever I start explain these things and teach you what these things really are supposed to be. When we have a protection, right? It's a protection of freedom of the person. It is not that you can be violated and then later on you bring the matter to court. As a matter of fact, the only time court is mentioned in the entire Charter of Rights that are protected or recognized is after you are charged with a crime. That's it. Your rights, if it is protected, it cannot be first violated under any circumstances. So now, for example, under the Road Traffic Act, right? It is said that, for example, if you, let's say you break a stoplight, or you are accused and charged of breaking a stoplight, right? You are stopped or you are chased and then stopped. Then several things happen that violate your protection of freedom of the person. The first thing is this. A crime has 3 essential elements. Let me see if I can easily find one of these cases. A matter of fact, let us take a little journey down to let's go to the appeals court. Appeals Court, Jamaica. We're going to bring up a case because sometimes I mention these things to you guys and I know some people are always wondering, is what he's saying true? So here we are at the Court of Appeals Jamaica website. Let's search for, look at it, I have some things in the search already. Mens rea. Right? So here you can see, let me bring it up for you. Whenever you search for case terms, it will search through the documents and see which document has those terms that you search for, right? So, here we have several cases, right? And it will tell you in relation to criminal law what is required for these elements, right? And here you don't even have to go searching through all the cases. Sometimes it will tell you right there. What does it say? Mens rea, intent to commit the offense, right? So this is the mental element. So now, that is one. Mens rea. We have another one called actus reus. Right? And this is what is called the guilty act. Let us see. Here is another case talking about it. To say the elements of the offense related to the actus reus of attempting to pervert the course of justice. And it gives you many different contexts as it relates to these Latin terms, right? Then you have the third one. You can see the people who come a class. Corpus delicti. All right, so they don't have corpus delicti listed in the search, right? But rest assured, that is one of the 3 elements required for a crime. Mens rea, actus reus, and corpus delicti. Now, in order for you to be suspected of a crime, those elements must exist. First and foremost, there is no way to prove intent to break a stoplight. Some of these tickets where they say you break stoplight, you are already in the intersection or it is an orange and you pass the pedestrian line in front of the light. But what? You don't know any of this, so you just accept the ticket. The second one, actus reus, guilty act, right? All of these things require evidence. How many times you go to court and the police officer brought evidence to show? Have you ever seen a body cam footage or a street video? Have you ever seen a picture? Have you ever seen the speedometer gun? Has anyone ever been in a traffic case where you have seen evidence brought in to show your guilt? Anyone? We have J Skull. J Skull, you're up. So many of these cases go to court, and because of our ignorance, the court system proceeds as though the evidence is there that is required by law. Even when the law itself is clear that your conviction must be based on evidence. All right, J Skull, not ready yet. So, when we have these protections in place, and then we have a law being passed by Parliament or something purporting to be law, it is only because we don't know and we don't come together and make a Supreme Court claim that the Road Traffic Act is in violation of the Charter of Rights guaranteed under the Constitution. That is the only reason why it is still in play. only reason. Because we don't know. We don't assert our rights. Right? So, these are the imposed obligations for the use of our rights without meaningful consent. Right? Our rights are not paramount. Our rights are basically secondary to the actions of the agents of the state. Our rights are not respected in any way. The only time our rights are respected is sometime if we get an attorney or if we are a formidable opponent in court. And that is after we get violated. And sometimes there are people who win in court and still don't even get much of any compensation. After you have gone through the pain and the suffering and all of these different things, you are still left with nothing even after you win. I don't know about you, but that is certainly not a system that I would find to be just as a judicial system. Number 7, it has failed to provide equal protection under law by allowing immunity to unlawful official acts under the claim of public good, right? We just went through that. It has obstructed justice. A matter of fact, so we just went through the case example, right? And we also went over a similar situation where you don't have the concept of fruit from a poisonous tree, right? So that means that the police can do anything they want as long as they find some evidence, right? Options, lawful, greetings. Let me say that again. The police can do anything they want as long as they find some evidence related to a crime. So that means that if you have a machete in your car and the police carry out an unlawful search, the court will admit that machete as evidence to say you are not supposed to have the machete in your car or whatever other foolishness they come up with, and say that you are being charged under this act because the Privy Council have ruled that it does not matter the means by which the evidence is gathered, whether it be legal or illegal. As long as the evidence is against you and it is relevant to what you're being charged with, that is the only thing that matters. So that means that the police can carry out any unlawful acts they want, and the courts will protect them and say that it is the evidence that matters, it is not the actions of the police. And that, my friends, is why the police feel like them a God a road. Nine, it has exercised power beyond lawful authority, creating laws that violate the very constitution from which it derives power. Again, if the Road Traffic Act was challenged on each provision that it has in that act, the entire thing would crumble. The entire thing would crumble because it violates the very rights that are guaranteed and protected under the Constitution. 10, it has ignored repeated petitions for redress and reform. How much time you see people on march? How many times you see people are complaining and are sending letter, are sending this, and make social media posts, and make Indicom report? Very few of those go anywhere. Anywhere. 11, it has eroded confidence through inconsistency, inequality, and disregard for the public good. How many times have public officials come on public television and give us wrong information? How many times have they, specifically, we have heard the minister come out and say what? Body cameras are not a priority for the security forces. Body cameras are not going to be worn for those who are carrying out operations. Accountability is not a concern. Jamaica is the safest place. Yeah, man, island flavors. Lawful always. Right? So, our confidence in fairness and equality is gone. Right now, if if someone were to go parish by parish and ask people in the towns, just not even 10 questions, just ask them 5 questions about what do they feel the government is doing great? How much confidence do they have in the government? We would really hear and see how people feel. 12. It refuses to make public the accounting of the consolidated fund, showing what funds are in reserve, its official spending, and other financials. Them not show the books because it is not ours. They don't owe us any allegiance. They have already taken an oath to the crown and to the corporation. Right? 13. It refuses to declare the necessity for high salaries and massive spending of our monies located within the nation's consolidated fund. They are calling us a nation, but yet still, we have no say in how this money that they are collecting is being used. Jamaica is still a colony, and we are subjects, and subjects can't fully exercise their rights. Exactly so. Exactly so. 14. It has made acts and regulations purporting them to be general laws governing the people. And again, Section 48 specifically limits any laws they are creating to peace, order, and good government. They can't just make any law they want, which is what they've been doing. 15. It has, through Parliament, enacted the Local Governance Act, attempting to convert each inhabitant of all parishes, territories, and constituencies into municipal corporations to circumvent individual protections and then claim criminal jurisdiction and authority over free people. So for those of you who are new here and you don't know what the Local Governance Act says, let us show you. Let us take a look at that. One second. Let us find it. Local Governance Act of 2016. You see the student them in the chat? I already know where we're going with this. Section 5(2), right? Local Governance Act of 2016. The inhabitants of each parish, other than the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, which are later covered, are hereby declared to be a municipal corporation under this Act. And each such municipal corporation shall be deemed for all intents and purposes to be the successor of the respective parish council referred to in Section 3(2) of Parish Council Act, repealed by Section 53 of this Act. And for the avoidance of doubt, all assets and liabilities of that parish council are hereby vested in the municipal corporation so succeeding. When you hear what it said, though, let me read it again. The inhabitants of each parish other than the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew are declared to be a municipal corporation under this Act. So when you hear people that say the name of one corporation, them consider everybody a corporation. Them consider everybody dead. Them consider everybody this. This is a clear example of the government creating a law that has nothing to do with peace, order, or good government of Jamaica. Right? So while this act is in effect, the government is considering everyone on paper. A corporation doesn't live. A corporation is on paper. So if a corporation is on paper, what do you have on paper? Your name. Your name is on paper. So therefore, you are considered a municipal corporation until you declare otherwise. I know me say so. A them put it there. See it there? In front of your face. A them say so. Me zoom it in a little more. Them say so. Alright? So there you have context. Let's go back. Section 16. It has criminalized freedom of movement by vehicle, which freedom of movement is a right guaranteed under the previous constitution without limitation on mode of movement, a protected activity. Such governmental actions create arbitrary road traffic acts and regulations that turn unintentional operation of a car or motor vehicle into criminal penalties and fines, with prison time if convicted and an inability or refusal to pay. So, is the live glitching for people? Are you... Okay, so maybe my connection. It look like we have dropped too much. Now them say education is the key. So when I give the key, them say education is the key. So how come them a disrupt the thing? When time I drop education. Or then just mean institutional education. All right, let me see. All right, any of this sound any better? Let me know if it's still a glitch. The truth is an offense. All right. So, 16. It has criminalized movement by vehicle, which freedom of movement is a right guaranteed under the previous constitution, without limitation on mode of movement, a protected activity. Such governmental actions create arbitrary road traffic acts and regulations that turn unintentional operation of a car or motor vehicle into criminal penalties and fines, with prison time if convicted and inability or refusal to pay. That sound better? All right, cool. So, we have, let's go back to the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, right? It says that the citizen is free to move about, right? Let us see if we can go back to the section. All right. So section 13.3 F, previous constitution means, because we're within a constitution talking about another one, right? So we're in this new constitution. So we're now talking about the one that was in effect prior to us creating this. That's why I would say previous constitution. Right? So under the charter, section 13(3)(f), it says we have the right to freedom of movement. That is to say, the right of every citizen of Jamaica to enter Jamaica and of every person lawfully in Jamaica to move around freely throughout Jamaica, to reside in any part of Jamaica and to leave Jamaica. Right? The freedom of movement does not have a restriction. It didn't say except. It didn't say with these conditions. It never give any restriction on the movement. It said you can move about wherever you want. Now the Road Traffic Act and Regulations say you are not free to move about. And if you do this specific action while you're moving, now you are a criminal and you will face criminal penalties unless you pay a fee. Imagine that. And for those who are in doubt, because you know, we always have some people who are saying, well, the Road Traffic Act is not really a criminal law, a criminal act. If it is not a criminal act, right, why does it say, and in default of payment, 3 days imprisonment? Right? In default of payment, 15-day imprisonment. In default of payment, 7-day imprisonment. Why are you being imprisoned if it is not criminal? Right? So, even though, exactly, even though they have that listed there, it still has to fall in line. It still cannot violate the freedom of movement, which in fact it does. Because you breaking a stoplight, if no one got injured, if no one died, if no property got damaged, how did you commit a crime? Just because somebody writes something on one piece of paper, that does not make it law. We've said this many times. Just because something is passed in Parliament, everybody assent to it, everybody agrees, say, yeah man, this should be a crime. This should be. That does not mean it is law. It cannot violate other laws, especially the Constitution, which the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms 2011 that was infused in the Constitution is a part of it. It is said to be read alongside it. So if this is the Constitution, right? It is a part of it, and it's a freedom of movement. Point blank. There are no restrictions here. And now you create a Road Traffic Act restricting how people can move. How is that in alignment with the right that is recognized and protected here in the Constitution? It is a blatant conflict. And what does the Constitution say about conflicts? If there is a conflict, the Constitution wins at all times. So your right to freedom of movement wins at all times. All traffic tickets, if you claim you have a right to freedom of movement, it has to prevail. There is no alternative. If there is not a crime that can be articulated, the Road Traffic Act fails. The only thing that can overcome a right is a wrong. And what is that wrong? That wrong has to be a crime, something articulable. You ever hear the Americans them say, reasonable articulable suspicion? That's what it means. You have to be able to explain what crime was committed, how it was committed, and what evidence you have to show that it was committed. And in 99.9% of cases, the police them not have no evidence of nothing. Nothing. The only evidence them have, them write you one ticket. And we all see video footage of them collecting lunch money. Anyways, we're not getting into all of that. Alright? So, criminalizing movement by any means is a violation of the Constitution. But the court are still enforcing if you violated the law. It's unlawful. 17. It has turned the police force against the people, slaughtering and killing those it deems criminals. Again, deadly force, no weapons. Put that skirt pants. Jaja. Oh, okay, hear me now. No, sir. So you see, when we touch on certain topics, no man, they really mess with the connection. Jaja. Now, again, the Constitution guarantees due process of law, right? Under section 16, let's go to section 16. Is freedom of the person. Oh, watch ya. Property. We'll soon go back to protection of the person, right? Right to due process. And we talked about this before. Section 16 of the Charter, right? They... yeah, look like my connection being targeted. But when I watch them, just keep on top of the live. See? Section 16 of the Charter of Rights in the Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962. Section 16 has 12 paragraphs. 4 pages. Right? 12 paragraphs that must be afforded to you under the Constitution. But in today's day and age, we know that if we don't vocalize our rights, the court is going to say, well, you failed to assert your right, or you did not exercise your right, so therefore we had no idea you had the right, or you wanted to use the right. Now, people, if we're going to say the justice system is fair, how can the justice system assume that you don't want to use your right? How can a system of justice know that everybody have a right, and the default position of the court is that if you don't say anything, that means that you don't want the right, You don't want to use the right. The right has no use to you. You have waived the right by being silent or by not knowing how to communicate that in court. Does that sound like a system of justice to you? Does that sound like a humane and justified legal system? If me have a right and everybody know that everybody is supposed to have these rights, why is it that we have to declare it? Why is it that we have to assert it? Why we have to put it in legal language and tell it to everybody with their own way? Why? Jaja. So let me read some of this for now. So you see, all I know, we either go to court or not go to court before. This is what should have been afforded. Or, more importantly, this is how they recognize the rights. You had to assert it. This is how you would assert a right in court. Right? You would say, for example, again, this will most likely not work if you are not at trial, because the courts are set up in such a way that they deny you certain rights before you can even talk. Right? The only thing they might ask you is guilty or not guilty. Right. Ignorance is ignorance is no excuse when it's against you. Exactly. So, when trial day, a matter of fact, may I go just explain certain things. And again, may I talk to myself. So, just consider me a madman at this point. So, I am not giving legal advice. That is what I meant to say. Right? So, to my future self, when one first goes to court, and if it is that one is demanded to enter a plea, guilty or not guilty, may I say, given the coerced options of guilty or not guilty, I am pleading innocence, which appears to be not guilty in this court. That is how I would plea if I am forced to do so. Or I would say something similar to I would plea in the form of a demurrer under the due process protection under section 16 of the Jamaica Constitution Order in Council 1962. I know that's a mouthful. I tell you to say walk with a pen. The next thing I will say is I am also invoking my right to a speedy trial. Your Honor, I would like this case to be scheduled for 45 days from now or less. Thank you very much. That will signal to the court that you are exercising a right guaranteed under the Constitution. So if you invoke the right to a speedy trial, you don't have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months for a trial date. When the trial date comes, I would invoke my right to due process. And that is what this entails. 1. Whenever a person is charged with a criminal offense, unless the charge is withdrawn, he shall be afforded a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court established by law. Right? So, my first question to the court is, Your Honor, is this court a part of the Jamaica government? Question number 2, Your Honor, is the police an agent of the government? My question number 3, Clerk, are you an agent of the government? Or are you sitting in an office of government? Fourth question. Your Honor, can you please explain to me how this court is impartial and independent? Because something independent cannot be a party to the case. It cannot be that the system that is accusing me is also the same system that is standing trial. Under Section 16 of the Constitution, Order in Council 1962, that is a violation of my right to due process. And I am exercising that right to demand that this case be dismissed. Because we do not have independent and impartial parties here. This court is a part of the Jamaica government, and every party within here, except for me, is a member or an agent of the government. Here's what 16.2 says. In the determination of a person's civil rights and obligations. You notice what it says? In the determination of a person's civil rights. So this is what gives the court the authority to check to see whether or not you asserted a right. Because the Constitution specifically said they can determine if you have any rights. These words are very crafty. You don't have to look far. You don't have to come up with theories and ideas. It says, in the determination of a person's civil rights and obligations, or of any legal proceeding which may result in a decision adverse to his interest. Or, in other words, saying, if a decision can be made that is not good for you, he shall be entitled to a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court or authority established by law. Again, the court can never be independent and impartial if it is a party. All of them are agents of the government. So how can it be independent and impartial? Violation of the Constitution. Section 3. All proceedings of every court and proceedings related to the determination of the existence or the extent of a person's civil rights or obligations before any court or other authority, including the announcement of the decision of the court or authority, shall be held in public. Okay? Now, there are many people who go to court with their family members, their friends, members of the public, and they are denied access to the court. It is said that if you don't have a case, you cannot come inside. If you're not going to file a case, you can't go inside. If you're not going to the clerk, you cannot go inside. If you don't know where you're going, they are going to stop you. They are not going to aid you in publicly witnessing the proceedings of anything going on in the court. Again, violation of the right to due process. Because how is it that you are being required to go into the court by yourself? No witnesses. That is not a court. I guess you can give it a label, but that is not a court. What you say, glitching again? No, sir. Then dip on with tonight. Is it still glitching? Ah la la. Let's see. I am switching between connections. All right. So, we have these things in here offering protection, but it's also giving the courts certain what you call discretions. All right? Well, we have a little ways to go. So, if them want to continue, then can continue, but we're not stop yet. We're not stop. Right? So, all courts are supposed to be public. The reason all courts are supposed to be public is because that is the only way people know if we are getting justice. The proceedings of the court are not made public. We don't have any live stream. We don't have any video. We don't have no record other than what the court creates. That is not an independent and impartial court. That is a court hiding behind its own rules. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say the courts should be policed. And you know, you're going to have many judges who are going to say, well, the Constitution is not the only law. And you have things like the Road Traffic Act, and you have things like the civil procedure rules, and you have the criminal procedure rules. So there are many laws that still apply and they are not part of the Constitution. While that is true, those acts have never passed a constitutional test. We do not have any record of them passing a constitutional test. And that is a direct violation of the Constitution. We, the people, are not supposed to be going in there challenging these laws. It is, a matter of fact, it is the opposition party's duty to bring up these things and challenge all of the laws in court. But anyways, we're not going to respond that. We're not going to respond that. So here, section 4 said, nothing in subsection 3 shall prevent any court or any authority, such as is mentioned in that subsection, from excluding from the proceedings persons other than the parties thereto and their legal representatives. Right? So in interlocutory proceedings, in appeal proceedings under any law related to income tax, to such extent as the court or other authority may consider necessary or expedient in the circumstances where publicity would prejudice the interest of justice. You see, this right here, so, is a violation of the very provisions of section 3. It is a contradiction. Right? But first, this would have to be explained in order to stand. Because it is explaining to you that it can only stand under such extent. So it has to be in writing. It can't just be them just say, well, I just saw where I do it. That is not law. That is not law. 5. Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until he is proved guilty or has pled guilty. So if you are to be presumed innocent, right? The only question, if they are going to ask guilty or not guilty, the only question the court should ask is, are you going to enter a plea of guilty? And your answer should be no. That is it. Because here, what does it say? Innocence, or proved guilty, or pled guilty. We don't have something that says not guilty. So where does the court get it from to say, sir, you have to answer, or ma'am, you have to answer guilty or not guilty? It doesn't exist. The only thing they can ask you is, are you going to enter a plea of guilty? And the answer would be no. 6. Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be informed as soon as reasonably practicable in a language which he understands of the nature of the offense charged. Right? Many times you ask the police, where you charge me for? They not tell you nothing. That is a violation of due process. Every person charged with a criminal offense shall have adequate time and facilities for the preparation of his defense. Did the court ever provide you with any facilities to prepare for your defense? The Constitution says so, you know, not me. You should have adequate time and facilities for the preparation of your defense. Guilty with explanation does not exist. That is a court trick and trap. And when people tell you that, that means that they want you to go down in the gutter of the court. They want to steal your money. C. Be entitled to defend himself in person or through legal representation of his own choosing, or if he has not sufficient means to pay for legal representation, to be given such assistance as is required in the interest of justice. Notice it never said nothing about lawyer. Notice it never said attorney. Question: did the term lawyer and attorney exist at the time of creating this charter in 2011? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Did the term attorney and lawyer exist at the time of creating the charter that was amended into the Constitution in 2011? So how come them never use it? Why did they say legal representation of his own choosing? Why didn't they use the term attorney or lawyer or legal professional? You see, when you read these things, you have to see that the words were chosen very carefully. So this is not something that, oh, it just didn't exist at the time, or they just didn't find it necessary to include that. No. That option was there and they chose not to include it. So that means that it is not required to get an attorney to represent you in court. You can appoint anyone to be your legal representative because that is guaranteed under section 16. 16? Yeah? 16(6)(c). Under section 16(6)(c) of the charter, you can appoint any legal representative you want. Not only chosen, but well placed. Exactly. All right. D. Be entitled to examine or have examined at his trial witnesses against him and to obtain the attendance and examination of witnesses on his behalf under the same conditions as witnesses against him. Having the assistance of an interpreter free of cost if he cannot understand or speak the language used in court. I'm going to pause here because I'm going to get into the part here. Have the assistance of an interpreter free of cost if he cannot understand or speak the language used in court. What does this tell you, people? Why would they need to outline this? To have an assistant to interpret for you if you don't speak the language used in court. So what language is being used in court? You see, this is very crafty. Because if you, a matter of fact, even if you are savvy, even if you're savvy in the legal language and you can comprehend most of what is happening, right? The language used in court is never uttered by anyone. Have you ever heard anyone in court say, well, we are used, this type of legalese or that type of legalese? No. They don't mention it at all. But why? And why would they need to say, speak the language used in court? Because if the language is supposed to be English, if they did ever put English here, so the court get knocked. They get knocked because that means that they would only have to use English. But because they've simply put this conundrum here to say the language used in court, that means that they can use whatever they want in the courtroom and you don't have to know what it is. Even if it sounds like English, you get knocked. If you don't know, say, you can ask for assistance to interpret the language of the court free of cost. You know what does it say? Free of cost. So then can't charge you, then can't tell us if you go get an attorney. And say, Your Honor, I don't understand the language you're speaking because you're not speaking common English, and thereby I am demanding the assistance of someone who can interpret this language fluently. Thank you very much. Then can't send you go get an attorney. Then can't tell us if you go hire one. It does not matter about income. Section 16.6e. Free assistance of an interpreter. That no means say them have to represent you, but them have to explain everything related to the case. Section 16.6f, the famous section. You shall not be compelled to testify against himself or to make any statement amounting to a confession or admission of guilt. You cannot incriminate yourself as a right. If you are forced to say something that is a violation of the charter, a violation of the Constitution, that proceeding is now null and void. And except with his own consent, not to be tried in his absence unless he so conducts himself in the court as to render the continuance of the proceedings in his presence impracticable. Right? So if you're disorderly in court, they can order that you be removed. Or he absconds during trial. So if you don't show up to trial, they can proceed without your presence. Because people always ask, how comes the constable them not show up and them not get bench warrant, them not get arrested, etc., etc. It is because they are not required under the charter. It is you. It is you who have that right. That is why they must find you. They cannot have the case without you. So you have now frozen the calendar of the court. That is why they send someone to go get you to bring you back into the court. Now for the constable, if he don't show up, the court is supposed to subpoena him, but you have to assert that. Because they will say, yes, we will make sure we subpoena the constable, or we make sure that we get the constable in here for the trial. You tell them you want to have a copy of the subpoena. I want to see the record. Right? If you don't assert the right, you don't have none. Section 16.7. An accused person who is tried for a criminal offense or any person authorized by him on that behalf shall be entitled, if he so requires, and subject to payment of such reasonable fee as may be prescribed by law, to be given for his own use within a reasonable time after judgment, a copy of any record of the proceedings made by or on behalf of the court. How much time the court telling us say, oh, we don't give any paper records of dismissal. We don't give any paper records of conviction. We don't have any printout of this. We don't give printout of that. Garbage. That's a violation of law. Violation of your right to your own record. You are a subject to that record. So they cannot tell you cannot have a copy of it. You have a right to a copy of the proceedings and the order. 8. Any person convicted of a criminal offense shall have the right to have his own conviction or sentence reviewed by a court, the jurisdiction of which is superior to the court in which he was convicted and sentenced. So that means that if you feel that you were unjustly convicted, you have the right to demand review of a higher court. So if the traffic court say you were found, they find you guilty, you can say, Your Honor, I am exercising my right to demand review by a superior court or the Court of Appeals. That's simple. You can also say, Your Honor, if it is so required by the court, I am motioning the court to have this case reviewed by the Court of Appeals. Right? This is my notice of appeal. You can do an oral notice of appeal. Right? No person who shows that he has been tried by any competent court for a criminal offense and either convicted or acquitted shall again be tried for that offense or for any other criminal offense of which he could have been convicted at the trial for that offense, save upon the order of a superior court made in the court of... Anyways, we're not going to get into all of that. And this is talking about double jeopardy, being charged for the same crime. No person shall be held guilty for any criminal offense on account of any act or omission which did not, at the time it took place, constitute a criminal offense. People, all this time we are read for the past half an hour, past half an hour, we're still under due process, you know. These are all of the rights that are guaranteed under due process. And this is just one section. None of this requires an attorney. None of this requires an attorney. So, if you say, you know, sometimes you go to court and the judge say, well, I don't believe your story. I believe the constable and I'm going to find you guilty of this offense. That is a violation of your right to due process under section 16. Which one is this? 1610. No person shall be held guilty of any criminal offense on account of any act or omission which did not at the time it took place constitute a criminal offense. They have to prove it is a criminal offense. How much time am I telling you this? Greetings, Kem, lawful. In every ticket that is being issued, the prosecution has to prove it was a criminal offense. And criminal offenses need evidence. Simple question. Our prosecution, can you please provide to the court the evidence upon which you are relying upon? What am I going to say? Well, we have a witness statement from the constable, and that is our evidence. Your Honor, a witness statement is not something that is considered evidence on the scene that was supposed to be a crime. A witness statement is not evidence. A witness statement is in support of a charge. You are not on trial. This is why you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to not incriminate yourself under section 16(6)(f). This is why you don't have to say nothing, because in a criminal offense, they have to prove their case. But they trick you to talk. Enough people have explained themselves because them things say, a common sense run the court. So them run up and then start talk and I explain. And when they done explain, the judge say, I don't believe you. I believe the constable. You just incriminated yourself. But if you don't open your mouth and you simply just ask questions, you refuse the opportunity to testify against yourself. When they tell you, say, okay, I'm going to the box and explain what happened, you tell them I decline. I am not going to make any statement that will be used against me. It's that simple. So if you don't open your mouth and incriminate yourself and you simply ask questions, where is the evidence in support of this charge? A witness statement is not evidence. A witness statement has to be in conjunction with evidence. So if they don't have no picture, they don't have no video, they don't have anything to show that is evidence-based, to show the fact of the situation, you cannot be convicted. 11. No penalty shall be imposed in relation to any criminal offense or in relation to an infringement of a civil nature, which is more severe than the maximum penalty which might have been imposed for the offense or in respect of that offense at the time when the offense was committed or the infringement occurred. So when you go to court and the fine is supposed to be $5,000 and the judge say you're wasting time and they're going to charge you $6,000, the court has just made a constitutional violation. And that ruling has to be overturned. This is why you should always demand a copy of the ruling. If you don't have a copy of the ruling, if it is not written down on a piece of paper, what the judge says has no effect outside of the court. Let me repeat that for now. Without a judgment being memorialized by a written order, it cannot be enforced outside of the court. That is why sometimes when you don't pay your ticket and they don't issue a bench warrant, you cannot be arrested. There has to be a written order for a court to impose a penalty. 12. If at the time of sentencing a person who is convicted of a criminal offense, the penalty prescribed by law for that offense is less severe than the penalty that might have been imposed at the time when the offense was committed, the less severe penalty shall be imposed at the time of sentencing. Every person shall have the right to freedom of... Okay, so we're going to religion. Freedom of religion. Freedom to change religion, blah, blah, blah. So you have all of these rights whenever you are charged with a crime or you are given a ticket. Same thing. They are charging you with a crime. You have all of those due process rights that you forfeit. You're not exercising them. You just walk up in a court, you argue, you do all of these, you do everything but exercise your rights. Imagine that. So, the court ignores most of our rights. Right? The courts administer actions it calls justice when no clear procedure is defined for everyone to understand, comprehend, and or comply with. How many people know how the court system works? How many people can confidently say, I know each step of the process of what should happen if I am to go to court? It is written down somewhere, step by step, what I should do and what I should submit to the court if I have a case as a defendant or as a plaintiff. Has anyone seen a step-by-step manual on how to proceed in court? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Drop it in the chat. Have you ever seen a manual that tells you what should happen at each stage of the proceedings in court? So, because we do not realize these rights exist. Right. So let us ask ourselves a question. How can we have a fair and impartial court system if we don't have any instructions on how to conduct ourselves each step of the way? How can we truly say we have a system of justice if the process is not standardized where everyone can follow the same process? Doesn't that sound like something made up, something arbitrary? Because it certainly doesn't sound like justice to me. If we are going to say we are going to have a justice system, isn't justice supposed to be equal to all? How can we have something equal if there are no procedural rules for each step of the way, what you should start with, what you should do, examples of what you can and should not do? How can we have a system of justice? It doesn't make sense. 19. The entire system of law is run by attorneys and former attorneys. Judges are not selected, appointed, nor voted for by the people, but rather selected from a pool of attorneys based on years of experience and other administrative factors. For those who didn't know, all judges were previously attorneys. The requirement to be a judge is a certain amount of years of experience. So, if it is the fact that all of our judges are attorneys, right? Do we still think that our system of government is for the people? If all of our judges are attorneys, how can we ever have a fair system of justice? With the exception of the parish courts? Are you sure? Only information they get is the way how you should dress, right? No. Here's the thing. This is, if you don't get anything else from this presentation, right? A justice of the peace can be a judge, but most magistrate judges in the petty session or the parish courts, they have some level of legal experience. You're not going to just have a justice of the peace just like that. If all of our judges are attorneys and most are politicians, how can the system be fair? The system is not made for the people. The system is still colonial, and that's what we went over earlier, right? All of the oaths that are being taken, they are being taken to something other than the people. So therefore, it is not a system made for the people. It is a system made to appear to be for the people. Right? And in practice, we know that they violate the Constitution all the time. Why? Because there is no one to punish them. There is no enforcement of the Constitution. Who do we call on when we have constitutional violation? We have to go back to the same people. Them. 20. Judges have twisted the plain language of the Constitution beyond its plain meaning, claiming its actions and decisions in the interest of public safety or public good, without consent nor constitutional mandate. 2 problem with this. In a modern society like ours, where they are claiming that Jamaica is so-called independent, right? And the judiciary is independent, blah, blah, blah. 1, they are still following British rule, right? Or final court or the highest court is the Privy Council, right? So therefore, the rulings that come from the Privy Council and similar high courts in England, they take precedence in Jamaica, right? So if the Privy Council say, for example, any evidence obtained, as long as it is of relevance to the case, it does not matter whether the method used to obtain it was legal nor illegal, then Jamaica has to follow. They don't have a choice because the final court is the Privy Council, right? On top of that, we have all the oaths that are being taken. They are all for the corporation or the crown. So now, if the judges say, for example, well, a right is not absolute, even though the Constitution never said so. The Constitution does not place limits on any of the guaranteed rights. So for the courts to say, well, the rights are not absolute, and in the interest of justice, in a free and democratic society, then this right can be abridged in this case. The court is now drawing upon a power that was never conferred upon it. But that is only if our constitution was organic. The problem is the Privy Council is a court that is still valid in our current system. And while the Privy Council is valid in our system, the Constitution is actually subordinate. Why do we say this? It is because the laws that are being interpreted and enforced, if the Privy Council says that it is going to uphold, for example, a 1938 ruling, then again, unless someone challenges it under the constitutional mandate, it is going to stick. It is going to stick. So when they twist the language to say, well, rights are not absolute, which we know rights are absolute, because you're born with them. Rights are not something that are tangible where you can move and take and put from place to place. You can't take rights from one person and give to the next. You can only do that under a corporate system, pen and paper. So unless you're doing that, then that action is invalid. It is null and void. But again, we don't have anyone outside enforcing these things. 21. Judges use judicial rulings, calling them case law, in future judgments as if they are statutory law, effectively removing the separation of power doctrine that ensures no department of government exercises more than a single inherent power. So judges effectively create laws, calling them case law, in violation of the Constitution, as well as pass judgment through judicial power derived from the Constitution. Money Move says, so does every case reach the Privy Council? I have no idea what you're talking about. Obviously, they don't. Because we're listed as corporations, they can do so. Well, for those who have not made their declaration that they are not corporations, yes, they are going to proceed that way. 22. It has failed to provide independent and impartial courts to try criminal cases as mandated by the Constitution. The state is the complaining party in criminal cases. The courts are run by the state, and the police are also employed by the state, thereby creating an impossibility of impartial justice for any alleged defendant. Where a party is also a trier of fact or instrumental in instructing the jury, justice is never guaranteed. I mean, it should be pretty clear, right? Now, if we're going to have, for example, jury trials, right? Someone demands a jury for their criminal case. Imagine the court giving every set of jury different instructions. That should not be the case. We should have a jury book. We should have a jury law where the jury has specific instructions for specific situations or specific cases. The court or the judge should not be giving instructions to the jury. Those things should not be discretionary. Imagine the judge said, don't consider this. XYZ. Why? This is not something that, comes out of law. This is something that's coming out of the discretion of the court. Their arbitrary rulemaking. I don't think justice can be truly delivered when we don't have uniform rules where if it's this kind of case, this is the instruction for the jury. I don't think anyone should be instructing the jury from some kind of rule book. It should be something etched in law. (23) The courts mandated to be public, except for extenuating or public safety circumstances, have been generally restricted and policed, only allowing those with active cases or their legal representatives to enter or observe the proceedings when the Constitution clearly forbids such restriction. We'll just talk about that, right? Under section 16.6. 24. The highest court is still a colonial court called the Privy Council. Right? Our highest court is the Privy Council. That in itself should remind people that we're under colonial rule. The Privy Council, following its long tradition of colonial judgments, has made rulings that are controlling in future court cases, contrary to the very rights protected by the Constitution, such that evidence obtained unlawfully are treated as relevant to the furtherance of justice rather than a violation of rights or a criminal act requiring punishment under law. Such blatant disregard for rights and the law allows police and all law enforcement to be empowered and ultimately immune from prosecution if the court deems them executing a lawful duty, even where illegality is uncovered. The people have been treated as slaves with little to no rights, protection, or respect, and their only recourse is to either suffer, hire an officer of the court called an attorney, to sue for money damages, or learn the law and attempt to combat the very system that caused the damage in the damage in a court of the same system. Right? So, in many cases where you have a case against a constable, there are no independent and impartial courts where you can bring that case. So you are always at a disadvantage when you approach the court. 27. Government, through each successive dissolution and subsequent resurrection through controlled voting, builds on the previous administration, ignoring wrongs, and continually makes acts and resolutions that are not requested nor demanded by the people. Again, It doesn't matter what you say, the government will not take your suggestions. It could be an individual, it could be a group, it could be an organization, it could be anything. They have come publicly and said they will not be dictated to by the public. The PM came out and said that. They will not be dictated to by the public. So again, people might say, well, he might act like him on a public official, they might act like this, he might act like... It is not acting. They are telling us at each step of the way that they are not a public institution. They are a corporate body and they are still under colonial rule. But we refuse to believe it. So we continue to say corruption. We're not recognizing that we were never given so-called independence. It is the government that was given independence to run locally and pass on the profits to the masters. So now, that brings us to where we are at today. And this is why we have to declare our independence of this system. With the knowledge of knowing that we are under colonial rule, and also the knowledge that slavery has been abolished, that is why we need to declare our independence and then institute a new constitution. So like I always say, knowledge before action. And this live is going to be made public on YouTube. So you can, if you miss a part of it, you can always go back and review. You can always go back and see what you missed. But this is why we create a Declaration of Independence to document what we are doing and why we are doing. Because if we don't do something like this, you see, it is just like the courts. The court will assume that you don't have any rights. The court will assume that you are under colonial rule. The court will assume that you're a corporation. The court will assume that you are there willingly. Right? So until you contest, until you declare yourself free and clear, they are going to keep assuming. So that is why we need to do this. We need our Declaration of Independence. Okay? So that is why we have this here. So I implore each and every one of you to go to voiceofjamaica.com. Let us go back there. Yeah, man, big up yourself, Island Flavor Tours. I implore everyone who is here to go to voiceofjamaica.com. You click on the first post, right? And you click on the constitutional draft. And I don't want to say homework. If you find it necessary, just go through the Declaration of Independence. Like we said, knowledge before action. As much as people want to say, yeah man, it's time for the Constitution, it's time for this, it's time for that. Again, we don't want to take action and then you don't know what to do next. We don't want to take action and only some people know what they are doing and others are oblivious. Okay? So that's why I am imploring everyone. It is only what? 5 pages? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Only 5 pages. Please go and read it. It will give you a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight. It will give you a different perspective on why we are moving the way we are moving. And again, we have more numbers than you might see on TikTok. Don't worry about the numbers. The knowledge comes first. Okay? Starting, today is what? Wednesday. Starting Sunday, we're going to start having some digital consumables. And we're going to start on the second part of stage 2. The declaration is complete, and we're going to start bringing awareness to this draft. Okay? So stay tuned, and we're going to have some action steps on the next live. So for those of you who are ready to move, again, we have to move in stages. As you can tell, there are many agents out there. Many agents out there, and they cannot wait to hear what we are doing so that they can try to stop it. And also, genuine people out there too, they are wondering how we're going to pull this off, how we're going to get this to work. We don't have a problem with the how. It is just the awareness we need to bring to the stage. All right? So, starting Sunday, for those of you who are ready to move forward, for those of you who are serious about truly changing what we have and where we are, we're going to start bringing more awareness around this topic, more awareness around the solutions. The solutions is what people really want. It's not necessarily if you're going to do action now and this and that. It is the solutions to the problem people really want. And that is what we're going to start disseminating and making public so that you realize the power that we have when we work together. Zin? So we have all of the material. We have the manuals. The only thing we're doing now is organizing. All right? We're putting everything together in one concise, cohesive, well put together way, so that way not only will you have options as far as if you would like to consume some of the information, as far as if you would like to have specific things, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's a little bit complex to explain without showing you what I'm talking about, and as you can see, much of this is a lot of information, right? But it is necessary. If we are to close all of the loopholes that we talk about, then this small part is necessary before we run, because we don't want to buck with who don't. We have to do this before we run. And once we have this available on the site, then you will start seeing exactly what I am talking about. All right? So starting this Sunday, we're going to start the action steps, where we start spreading awareness. As you know, I teach a lot of things on my page. I show the lawful way of getting this done. And rest assured, this is not something that can be stopped. This is not something that anyone can stand in front of. All right? This is literally going to be a moving train. And like we said before, we are not anti-government. We are not trying to overthrow the government. We're not trying to do anything related to any violence or any kind of combative thing with the government. We're not doing any of that because it is not necessary. And as we get closer, you will see why we say it is not necessary to fight and to do all of these things. There are other ways to get it done. All right? So big up on yourself. Thank you for joining, and we'll continue on Sunday evening. Lawful, always. Good night.